Hi, my name is Raquel Ormella. I'm an artist based in Canberra on Ngunnawal land, and I teach at the ANU School of Art and Design. And I was born in Sydney, and I spent most of my time growing up on Direct land near Penrith. When I started making this work, it was in the time before the internet, where everything happened at a slower rate. If you read the newspaper, it was a very solitary activity, and then I would think about what that meant and what the implications were, and maybe how could I get involved in a certain political activity? How could I have a voice in relation to these issues? I started to think about the kind of ways which people do speak in public in this form, with graffiti, with banners, with protest marches, with leaflets, with cheaply distributed magazines and books. Protest and the culture or the language of speaking in public has something that's always interested me. Of course, this situation now is quite different. You read your newspaper online, you can just open another tab on your browser and then go straight to an organisation that might be addressing this issue. What do you think are the most important environmental questions or issues right now?
Don't throw plastic into the ocean. Or the turtles might eat it.
The moment of reading something and then acting on it can actually be quite quick. How is it we can dwell in that space a bit more? How is it we can slow those actions down? Because of course it's great to be able to act quickly, but sometimes we act quickly and then leave it and don't come back to it. So did you guys go to the climate change march?
I went to two.
Yeah. One of the things I've found really inspiring is children protesting in the streets. And did you guys go to the climate change marches?
Yeah.
Yes,
I went to both.
I went to the climate march because I thought someone actually had to do something about this.
I wanted to help the planet and all the animals and the trees on it.
I went to the strike not to exactly protest, but to make the strike seem bigger.
And there's something that happens when people come together in public space and join their voices, particularly in a shared idea, is that it kind of affirms their position. You guys went to the climate change marches?
Yes.
Do you remember some of the chants that you were doing? Yes.
Yeah. There's coal, don't dig it, leave it in the ground, it's time to get with it. Coal, don't dig it, leave it in the ground, it's time to get with it. Coal, don't dig it, leave it in the ground, it's time to
I'm really surprised at the level and energy politicians put into discouraging children from striking.
My sign was Save Our Earth, and my mum made one that's There's No Planet B.
So what did yours say?
Kids can't do you.
Mine said Stop Adani and climate change is worse than homework.
They just want children to behave. Whereas I think the fact that these children are engaged with politics means that they're going to be engaged with the civic space and thinking about voting and action. So I think this engagement with the public space is really encouraging.
Said coal, don't dig it.
Coal, don't dig it? Yep. And so what's coal got to do with climate change?
It makes the air get more blackened. Makes the air unhealthy, and it gives lots of carbon dioxide into the air.
Climate change is where it's getting more hot because more sunlight comes in, more heat gets trapped.
Climate change is so overwhelming and it's so large and it's so difficult to understand as a concept. What happens if we start to think about the environment as not something which is a resource to be spent, but rather something that we're interdependent with or dependent on? So what is climate change?
It's getting hotter than it's supposed to be.
Or it could go colder.
Islands will just get flooded and there won't be enough space for anyone to stay.
But if the global warming keeps on happening, then it just also destroys habitats of animals, not just humans.
And do you know what causes climate change?
So the main thing that makes climate change is greenhouse gas or CO2 emissions, and that traps the heat inside Earth.
I think it's because pollution of
Gases from
Yes.
car.
And today, interviewing kids, you could really see that they are thinking about people beyond themselves.
I care about the earth. I don't want it to be changing like this.
Climate change is causing droughts, which is like hard for farmers to grow crops and like feed their animals.
They're going through fires, droughts, really hard things to go through.
The world could like stop because it's getting like hurt, like sick, how we get sick.
If you want to say why you went to the climate change march?
I wanted to express how, how we can change and like, because the government, we need to tell the government that we're not going to be in hiding, we're going to actually let our thoughts out.
Yeah.
People are taking days off school and halting their education to protest about this. I think the government should notice.
Yeah. Every time somebody says something about climate change, we start talking about economics, or we start talking about party politics, or we start talking about other kinds of power dynamics, and we keep leaving behind the urgent issue, which is that action needs to happen. Whereas for children, their understanding of the world is that they just want the action. So that's really inspiring and refreshing, I think. If you have a message about why climate change is important, what is your message?
We want to have a future to live in, and if the government isn't going to do anything, then we're going to show that we care. And go to as many protests as you can to help.
It's actually kind of up to the kids a bit more to kind of protest against the problem.
We just need to plant more trees and then just care for our trees.
And stop using like
Plastics.
plastic.
We have to stop what it's doing to the world. We can change coal for electricity. We can make it from the sun power, or we can make it from the wind power.
We need to use more public transport, like go on bicycles, use electric cars even, catch the buses, catch the trains. We all need to work together for a better future.
Stop it now before we can't go back.
We need to encourage other people to help us. We need 100% renewables by 2030.
I would say that this is serious and you have to actually take it seriously. I would say like aircons, it's nice, but it's actually making the world even hotter. So maybe stop using aircon.
Great. Well, I know exactly that should be the thing, but I'm gonna dip in a pool definitely when I get out. It is actually, I think, quite a good sign about a society that means that its young people are engaged with questions about the future and about their role and what they need to do in the future. I think that's a really good thing.